Next slide. Perfect. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the second iteration of the Monday Night Live for the Sartor for a Surprise campaign. I appreciate everybody being on. I know we have looks like about 10 people on Zoom and then a few more on the YouTube. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so this is the agenda for tonight. We're going to talk, I'll introduce myself. We're going to talk about some veteran support stuff, small business, and then election reminders, and then wrap up the event. We're going to do it a little bit different. You can go to the next slide, but we can do it a little bit different than last time. Last time it was a lot of me giving my vision, which I'll again do tonight. But I think these two particular topics, we need to have a discussion about it because there's a lot of different issues affecting veterans. There's a lot of different issues affecting businesses, and I think some of that can maybe be connected with jobs and those types of things, but I really like to have some open dialogue between all the participants if we can. So I'm Kevin Sartor. I am running for mayor of Surprise, Arizona, and you can go to the next slide. I think there's one more about me. But yeah, born and raised here in Phoenix, Arizona. I joined the Army after 9/11. I thought it was my generation's turn to answer the call, and served there for 8 years, deployed a couple times to Iraq. 27 months total, led over 1,000 hours of combat missions, came back, was a drill sergeant, got married in the meantime, had a couple of kids, and then decided to set up some roots back here in Arizona. So we moved back here, Sarah and I, with our family, joined the National Guard, became a engineer officer, and finished my last 10 years there. I've also been engaged with the city quite a bit with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then my last few months in the Army, I did a fellowship with the City of Surprise. Just learning about all the ins and outs of the city management and working on a strategic growth plan. So it's me in a nutshell. Now we're running for mayor. Go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so veteran support. This is a pretty important thing to me. Like I just mentioned, my background is being in the military, and I just recently transitioned out of the Army after 20 years. So I kind of understand the challenges that the veterans face, from a firsthand experience and some of those, trials and tribulations. It takes a lot to join the military. It takes a lot to be in the military, and it certainly takes a lot to transition out and try to have the, resources and support that you need. And so for me, that's one of the main reasons why I want to really target or, focus on this issue. I think there's a lot the city's doing, but, I think there's always more that we can do. And for me, a lot of that is just, developing some citywide best practices as far as hiring veterans, working with local businesses, supporting the West Valley Veterans Center, and making sure that everybody's voice is heard, and then just working with developers. I think if we can do some veteran small business things. In fact, I just went out this weekend and met with a veteran small business owner, and he's doing his thing and he's doing great. But again, I think there's just a lot more that we can do. So, do we have any other veterans on the line, or do we get any specific questions from anybody on this topic? No? Okay. All right, well, let's go to the next slide. And so we'll just open it up to Q&A. Any of the, if there's anybody that wants to talk or ask any questions specific about our veteran stuff, we'll open up the floor to anybody. All right. Well, don't all jump in at once.
I do want to let everyone know that your mic is open. You have total control, so you feel free to unmute yourself.
Oh, any of the participants?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andrew. Thanks. No?
Okay. Yeah, and I was just gonna let you know, Kevin, I'm scrubbing through a few of the questions right now, and we'll if we need to jump back to a veterans question, I'll let you know, but okay. I'm compiling a few of those now that got sent in advance.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep pushing through.
I could maybe I have one. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I didn't want to jump out in front of everybody. So I know you mentioned kind of talking a little bit about making things easier for the transition. Is there any other city or government entity or anything along those lines that you're kind of aiming to model what your vision is for Surprise after, or is this something that you kind of it's like the I don't want to say the pipe dream necessarily, but it's like something
Sure.
that is in the most ideal situation and just nobody's kind of brought it to fruition yet.
You know, it's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of veteran services out there. There's a lot of veteran service organizations. There's state and federal. I mean, VA. There's the Arizona Coalition of Military Families. So I think there's a lot of resources out there. And I think one thing that the West Valley Veteran Resource Center does is kind of bring all those things together. But from my perspective, it's grant funded, but I think the lady that was there, Allie was her name, and she did a great job. I think it was Niski. I'm gonna butcher her name, but she did an amazing job. But her grant was over, but she built so much rapport with all the veteran communities, and I mean, I think it's you have to kind of build that rapport before maybe a veteran will want to really open up and really discuss what the core issues are with them. So, but I think with all those different resources, it's important that we just have some continuity, and it's important that we build bridges and fill some of those gaps. I know for me as a service member entering the military, there wasn't the Army provided some information, but I think for the city, I think if we can get some of those folks together, I know Glendale does a kind of a military induction ceremony. That's something I definitely want to do here in Surprise. When we have a ton of people that join the military each year, and I think it's important that we celebrate them that decision. So that's definitely one thing I want to do, and then just really help with the resources on the front end. And then while they're serving, if we talk about Luke Air Force Base, they have a ton of resources there. But I was talking to a realtor group the other day, and they were concerned about that somebody an airman comes here and they don't really know the community. They don't really understand what's going on. So I think for me, it's just helping those service members feel welcome to the community, and just really going the extra mile as far as making sure that they understand all the different resources that are available, all the different amazing things that we're doing in the city. I think is important with the different activities and just different things that we're doing, and then just making sure that they know that they have support while they're serving. And then of course with the transitioning, for me it was the military is very structured, and so when you go to leave the military, it's you're so used to just kind of going through classes, and you learn, but you kind of I think instructor tries to get to the end of it before we really kind of go through a lot of this stuff. So I think for me, just making sure that we have those resources. I know we do the Veterans Roundtable quarterly here in the city of Surprise, and that's a good start. And I've been to a few of them, and there's a lot of good crosstalk between the VFW, American Legion. I know the Debbie Lesko and Paul Gosar's office, they have representatives here, and so I think just continue to build on that momentum that they have, and not just we have the meeting, but it's also just continuing with that care afterwards, and it's really connecting the dots. I think one thing for me is that employment. I have a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's in homeland security and leadership for 20 years, but even with all that, it was still challenging to try to articulate on my resume what to a particular job. And so that's why I wanted to do this this forum the way that I did it with veterans and small business. That way we can really start building that connection now, and work with small businesses and understand what their needs are, and understand what then we can work with veterans and understand what their jobs are, and really just kind of do that crosswalk between the two, and really help veterans find jobs here in Surprise. So I appreciate that question.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Q,
Kevin, let me just jump in. Oh, sorry. Can I jump in for
ahead.
just a second?
Please.
I appreciate your vision of joining small business needs and veteran needs. Yeah, my husband retired from the service after 20 years in February and is still looking for a job. And the same thing as what you're articulating, 2 master's degrees, 20 years of experience, managing billions of dollars. And yet we'd really like to stay in Surprise and are having a hard time making that happen because because it's hard to make bigger corporations see just on paper, even though he has a fantastic resume and has articulated it well, it's hard to help them to see how his military experience transfers to the civilian world. So I really like the idea of networking our veterans with small businesses so they can have those one-on-one opportunities. because it's not like they've been here in Surprise for years and years and years to build up a network. You know, they may have PCS here and then retired just like us. And so their network still may be relatively small. So anyway, I appreciate your vision on that.
Oh, thanks. Well, and thank your husband for his service, and thanks for your service as well. And what it's not an easy thing to be a military spouse, and raising a family and having your spouse leave for months at a time, or doing different things. So thank you for that as well. But yeah, I mean that's really it. I think just connecting the dots. It's those services are there, at nearly every level. But I think it just needs to be that focus and making sure that we do everything we can to support them at every stage of their career, whether that's one term or one enlistment or 20 years. We just have to do that. So and I hope that if we can start it here in Surprise, and maybe it will transfer over to some bigger businesses. They can see the success that we're going to have, and kind of duplicate our efforts. I think that would be an amazing thing to see. Anybody else have any other questions for the veteran side of it? All right, let's move
By the way,
on.
I'm going in the chat as you're going. Maybe somebody can help Kevin manage this a little bit. I'm going to dump all 6 questions I think I have into the chat.
Okay.
But you can carry on with your presentation part. It's just you'll see them come in there with names next to who asked, and
Yeah.
you'll be able to get to addressing those later, of course. Thanks.
Are these veteran questions or small business or a mix?
They're mostly related to small business, but we can manage them as they come anyway. I mean, carry on with the topic because a lot of it is a blend, just like Tina pointed out anyway. So there's definitely a mix there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's move on to small business. For me, it's, our city is growing so fast, and there's so many, big box stores coming in, and, I really enjoy, my wife really enjoys going to Costco and some of those other things, but, we didn't make sure that we have that space for small businesses. It's important for me. It's the heartbeat of what our community is. It's those small mom and pop stores that we need to support as best that we can. So it's really important. So for me, I've talked to a bunch of small business owners, and I've invited a few here tonight as well to help with that discussion. But from what I've gathered, and I've never been a small business owner per se, but when I was in the Army, I was a company commander for a recruiting company here in Arizona, and so I went. My area included from Papago Park all the way out to Yuma, all the way north to the Four Corners area. So pretty wide. Area, a lot of square miles, a lot of zip codes, but then also, I had 50 full-time employees and probably about 200 part-time employees. And so we had to do everything from, building out retail space for a storefront recruiting office. We had to do market share analysis. We had to do all those different aspects, budget, all those different things. So it's not specific to, hey, this is small business, but at the same time, I feel like there's some parallels that can help me better understand, especially when you're trying to find a lease or those types of things. So for me, it's about, and when we're talking about small business, it's just, I've heard from a lot of businesses that it's very cumbersome to try to, go through the process of, starting a business and then working through the permitting process, working through the leases, working through, just all the different government regulations. So my vision is to really have, that white glove service for any small business that's starting. I know we have the AZ Tech Accelerator, and there's some other, local businesses that kind of do the same thing. But for me, it's just, it's providing assistance and helping them navigate that process, and then just try to, help them find that commercial space, help them negotiate some of those leases. And then really, I think at the end of the day, most government is just reduce the regulation and just get the heck out of the way, and let that entrepreneurial spirit, and let, the residents and the economy just dictate, what's going to be successful and what's not. I think that's really kind of the biggest thing that we can do, or that I'm going to do as mayor, is just kind of really look at the process, look at the different things that are impacting small businesses, and just get after it and try to streamline everything that we can to make it as easy as possible for our folks. I feel like sometimes it seems like the biggest box stores just kind of get a straight path through, and I know there's some intricacies with it, but for me, it's really just making that path similar for small business. And if somebody comes to the city and says, hey, I have a business proposal, and work with our economic development team, work with our community partners, and just do everything we can. So, all right, we can go to the next slide. And so I'd really like to open it up. I know, Bob, I know you're on here. You're a small business owner here in Surprise. If you wanted to kind of give your take on, or maybe introduce yourself and your business and what you do, and maybe some of the things that you've seen in the small business world here in Surprise.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for the invite to have me on here. It's been great listening to you, and it's been great to get to know you. I know we've been able to have several conversations. I'm Bob Risch. Some of you on here may know who I am. I'm one of the owners over at the Office Toolbox over by Bash's, so we focus on a lot of small business needs day to day. And then the other side of that is we have what's called Caveat Institute, and that's where we focus on our coaching and consulting. So we're able to help small businesses from a very simple thing, day-to-day needs, to how to really start the business, how to really partner with them to really help them with that business. And this is one of the conversations that Kevin and I have had, is how to really partner up to really help small businesses as a whole, because this is what I do as a passion. And I see that Kevin's passion for Surprise and a lot of those passions, a lot of those interests really align. So again, thank you so much, Kevin.
Absolutely.
One of the areas that I'm able to really focus on is the National Small Business Association. I'm one of the leadership council members, so we're able to lobby for small business, not only here locally, but also nationally. So we're able to really get a really heartbeat of business around. And I was just kind of thinking, as a business owner, as a person who is part of the community, what are some of the issues? And really, it comes down to a couple things. It's the unknowns and the uncontrollables. And there's so many businesses that focus on what are some of the unknowns with inflation, the economy, where are things headed? How am I going to be able to survive in another year, let alone thrive? And then some of the things are the controllables, uncontrollables that, Kevin, you stated, some of the red tape and the bureaucracies and the different areas that we, as small businesses, we have to go through with dealing with local government and then even federal government. So a lot of those things are things that I deal with each and every day, but also as a business owner, I also experience some of those frustrations. So, I really like in this conversation how aligned we are on a lot of those needs, where our hearts are the same, plus we come from different areas. So I just kind of wanted to share that, and I hope that answered some of your questions, and I'd love to answer any more if you had any more questions, or kind of just participate in the discussion. So thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thanks for coming on. And thanks for what you do for in our community. It's I go there quite a bit, and it's always, you guys are always ready to go with any of the office needs. So I appreciate that. Yeah. So are there any other small business or business owners on here? See a couple of names I wasn't too familiar with. Anybody else? These Zoom calls are always fun. Someone told me I just need to do these in person. I was like, yeah, probably, but I think it's it's easier to get get a busy schedule and get everybody in a room right now. But okay, so Bob, when you say some of the red tape and bureaucracy, I know you just cut off your camera, but what are some of those things that you see from your perspective? Is it the timeline of things? Is it I don't know. What's your take on that?
Yeah, even just local, even just being able to make a phone call and be able to get somebody on the line, being able to streamline a process, whether it's getting a business license or have a question about zoning, have a question, even very something simple like, I want to put a sign up in my window. Can I do that? And I know in the past that's always been a frustrating moment of, who really knows the answer? And I know this is not only an issue maybe we've had locally, but in other communities I've worked with, where what are really the rules? Where can we really focus on? And those are just some examples of when we call the city, when you call the government, are somebody really there to help you, or do you just have to go through messages and answer machines and let you talk to so and so? Anything from I'm having an issue with this type of issue, where do I go to? And I think one of the biggest things that the city of Surprise, just say the name of the city of Surprise, but anybody in any type of government, was not necessarily having the answer, but being able to say, I don't have an answer for you, but I know somebody who will, because we're partnering with small business. And really, when it comes to the city of Surprise and small businesses, we're all really partners. We all live here. We all work together. Really, when we're able to really use each other's talents and really use each other's abilities, that's when it really starts coming alive. So when government and the city sees small business and small business sees government as a partnership versus as a constant this, I think that's some of the things that when that happens, it really helps people as a whole, and the community sees that and really able to really serve the community a whole lot better. Those are just some of the thoughts I have.
Yeah, no, and that's one of my biggest, and I agree 100%. It's those partnerships, and I know we have the Northwest Valley Chamber of Commerce. I know we have some other. I think there's the Epic Networking Group. There's, and I think even some of our businesses in Surprise go all the way out to Peoria. I think Lisa, did I see you on here as well? Lisa Dubs. I thought she was on. Maybe not, but yeah, she was telling me just the other day that she has to go to the Peoria Chamber. So I'd really like to see those partnerships be built, and really I think with anything, it's, the government needs to get out of the way to some extent for sure. But I think if we can help coordinate and help people get on the same page, it's going to pay dividends. If we can at least be the host of things, or at least initiate some of those conversations, I think it's going to go a long ways to making sure that we can collaborate with everybody, whether it's the chamber, whether that's the economic development department, individual businesses. But that's really kind of my thought with, small business here in Surprise. So does anybody have any experience with veterans in small business that you'd like to speak up and share about, or any other questions about small business? Okay, well,
I have a question. I know that our city council just recently passed a sales tax increase, and so that will obviously bring in more revenue to the city. But I think a lot of citizens were there at that meeting saying, "Hey, let's see where we can cut expenses."
yes.
So I'm wondering, with these partnerships that you envision, and that Bob was talking about, how do we create these partnerships without spending a lot of taxpayer dollars, without having to dip further into revenues that are already stretched? What and maybe this is a question for everybody, maybe for Bob just as much as for Kevin, like, what do those partnerships look like, and how can they not tax, or how can they not put strain on the budget?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think to some extent, we already have the city employees, we already have the facilities. Like we have the community room at City Hall that's just down the hall from the council chamber. So I don't think we need to spend a ton of money to get this done. I mean, we're already paying our employees. We already pay the economic development director. We're already paying her whole team, and we're already paying the community development director and his whole team. So I really just feel like it's getting people in a room and having a discussion. It's, I don't know if, I mean, there's some programs I'm sure that we can use. We could probably get some grants and those types of things as well to help minimize the cost to the city and to the taxpayers. But for me, it's really just having conversations, and that's where it starts. Anybody else have any other insight or their perspective on that from what they're doing?
I would agree with you on that, especially communication. And this is what I tell a lot of businesses when I walk in, that there's issues on both sides, and both sides seem to be on, opposing sides, is communication. Communicate. There's a lot of people have some great ideas out there, and a lot of times when you bring everybody together as partners, it's amazing what I have this idea, and just listening to different ideas, and especially when that is coming from both sides, is pretty powerful. And I'm speaking more from like employer to employee, business owner to, the workers. But really, we're all the same people, and the principles are still the same. So I like your idea as far as grants. There's a lot of grants out there. What are some ways that we can really bring in some more business, more grants to really support Surprise, where it's not necessarily about tax dollars, but it's really about people coming in and supporting the city, even from the outside? What are some of the opportunities for us businesses to be able to really, build our businesses, which also build the city itself, so we can also work together on that. So I like what you said. Definitely communication and getting on the table and working through it. Perfect answer. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine if we can get more small businesses, that the economic impact that would have in a positive way. We have more businesses, there's more folks going to those businesses. I mean, I think it's really just going to pay dividends to have that communication, really, and just collaborate. I mean, everything I've done in my entire life, professional life, is about collaboration. That you have a goal, and you don't really, it's kind of an undefined path. But I think through working together and through conversations, things start to come into focus, and you really can achieve some pretty amazing things. And that's really my focus here with the small business, with veterans, and all of it. So, Jessica, I saw you had a comment about the Arizona Veterans Business Outreach Center. Did you want to talk to that at all, or if you're in a position to do that? No? Okay. All right. And Lisa, I did see you on here. Did you want to be a part of the conversation as well, as far as small business?
Kevin, in the chat, Jessica said that she can't get on the mic at the moment.
Okay.
I'm gonna help out Tina here real quick. She's trying to balance a couple of things right now, but there are a couple of questions that were pre-submitted that are primarily about small business. So I think Tina submitted one that was about encouraging small. I think she asked this. So her question was, often government plans to encourage small business growth or support for veterans lean too far towards the welfare state of providing a handout. And so did we
Yes.
already? Yeah, okay. Just making sure.
No,
Going down the list.
I don't think we talked to that too specifically, but I know for me, if you look at the Tech Accelerator, which is like a small business incubator that the city has put on, and and it's important to have those types of things, but we need to be able to cultivate, have a culture of, we help small businesses get off the ground. We give them some advice, we give them some help, and then really we need to kind of let them take off and let them run their own business. So it shouldn't be a long-term deal. I mean, we're going to be here for any business, whatever they need, but at the same time, it needs to be, I think a very defined process, and say, hey, you come in, you have this amount of time to, maybe figure out their goals and what they want to achieve, and have some benchmarks along the way, and really just kind of help be that sounding board through, collaboration with people in the city, but with some of the folks that work for the city as well. Just be that sounding board and those mentors, and help them, get off the ground. And then from that point, it's like, all right, hey, well, we've done a lot for you, and it's time to for you to kind of take over.
Leave the nest. Okay.
So that would be my
Yeah, because I
perspective.
know the second part of Tina's question was about how do we support these constituents without overt government intervention or protectionism. So I think I'll let Tina, if she's able to pop off the mic here or not. Tina, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Cool. So
Yeah,
then the next, oh God, I'm so sorry, Kevin.
There's a balance between the government, helping, and the government, we can't do it all. I mean, we can help, and we collaborate and coordinate, but it can't be, a program where we're just continuing to support, in perpetuity every business.
Sure. No, and that makes sense to me too. So the next question is actually from Quintus Schultzke. And Hugh says that his chiropractor, this must have been recently, showed him how much he had to install on a very over-engineered safety lighting, sprinklers, and more at his new office. So his question to you then, Kevin, is what would you do to balance extreme building codes for safety while still giving new startups a chance?
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of small businesses about this specific thing, and I appreciate the question. Yeah, there's certain codes that we have to meet to make sure that there's safety. But if it's overbearing, I think we definitely look at those. But even something as small as tenant improvement for maybe like a pony wall, or switching from incandescent lights to LED lights. It takes the entire process, and sometimes I think it just needs to be like a common sense, like, hey, you're changing out a light fixture. It's not that serious. Check the plans. Maybe one of my thoughts was to have kind of an open, have somebody from community development, somebody from economic development, on maybe like a Tuesday, Thursday, just open, and any business or anybody that needs to have something approved, whether it's a resident, just walk in. And you have those people right there. I mean, make an appointment or just walk in, but you have those experts there to help you navigate those processes, and really just say, hey, yeah, you're doing something very, very simple, let's just move it through the process as opposed to trying to overregulate and making sure it goes through every little thing. Because I mean, I renovated my house a year and a half ago, and it was quite the process. And then even once you get the permit and you're doing the work and you have inspectors come in, you have different inspectors that are inspecting the work, and then they have different perspectives on what it is that they want or don't want. And so I think just getting everybody on the same page and really, and this kind of goes into just the permit process, but for me, it's, you have to make a phone call, you leave a message with the city for an inspection, and they can show up from 8 to like 4 the next day. You don't really know. And if you miss the timeline, you got 48 hours almost to wait. So I think for, commercial, for developers, I think that's probably an effective, method, because, you have, a foreman or, whoever out there on the job site, the whole time, and they can just, pop in and out of different things. But for a homeowner or a small business, that's pretty impactful to have to wait around all day. So I think we can definitely look at that process to, make it, you call and actually talk to somebody, or have a very specific time that you can schedule with these inspectors. So I think, to go back to the question, how do we stop over regulating some of these things? It's just having those processes in place to make it just easier for folks. It shouldn't have to be a challenge to try to go on the website and find what you need to find. It should be very, very streamlined, very easy processes. And that's what I'm going to work towards.
Okay, awesome. So I know the next question we have here is from George Bradbury. George, are you on the call?
Didn't see him on there.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So George asks, SBA loans and grants are really hard for small business owners to obtain, primarily because most lenders tend to shy away from actually offering them to small business owners. And he asks, do you have any plans to maybe create like a special dedicated office inside city administration that could really help coordinate and help businesses find the financial help that they need?
Yeah, that's a great question, George. And I think this can touch on a few different topics. There's grants for Small Business Association. There's grants, for transportation. There's grants for all different types of things. And I think we really need to have that expert in the city where somebody can call and be able to talk to somebody that really understands that process. I was talking to a resident the other day about transportation specifically. There's different ways to, we provide different means of transportation, whether it's we ride choice, those types of things. But to have somebody that can really understand the process and understand the different options, whether that's, and this is specific to transportation, but I think it ties back into what we're doing with small business, because if we can have an expert that understands, let's say, insurance process, maybe insurance can pay for some of the transportation, take that burden off the city, or there's different regional partners that we can work with, and that person would know the ins and outs of it. And I think the same thing can happen with small business, where we have that expert in the city, that grant expert, that can really help navigate those processes and help write that grant to make sure that they have all the things that they need in there to be as competitive as they can for it. And even if I can go, I mean, we're not talking about school safety, but one of my things about school safety is kind of the same thing, is to have, go out for state and federal grants for school safety. And, we need to have those experts at the city to do it. And I know there's some grant writers, and they do a good job, but I think if we can have somebody specific to some of these different topics, we can really help bring in some revenue to the city or to an individual, as opposed to having the city, bear that cost for a lot of it. I mean, Tina mentioned we had to raise the taxes because of a shortfall, the $60 million shortfall. And if we can, I think, get ahead of the game and kind of think outside the box with some of those grants, I think it could do a world of good for our city and for our residents. So, were there any other questions?
There are a couple more here. Sorry, I was Tina's getting back up to where she can see the questions, but I'm going to send her the link for those last couple, but one that you should be able to answer in the meantime is from Julie Shelton Mallow. Is Julie on the call by chance? No? Okay. So Julie sorry, I wanted to give her a chance to come off mute, so it's not just me talking at you, Kevin. So Julie's question is, what are your thoughts on all of the new buildings that are being done and builders she says builders not working with small businesses before major change. I don't know if that's real life. But maybe you've got more insight on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that I understand the question, I'm just going to clarify from my point of view, is that we're building out Prasada and we have all these big box stores coming in, and not a lot of small businesses coming in. And so I know when they're building these things and they have leases and they're working with economic development, they want to have stores in there. But I think for me as mayor, it's working with those developers, to set aside and say, hey, set aside some of the retail space and say, hey, this would be a great location for this store or this restaurant, or in a local store and local restaurant. I think that's going to be important, and really the kind of the same thing as one of my bullet points with the veterans is working with developers to say, hey, can we set aside a space for these different folks. And it's important to advocate, and that, for me, that's going to be the biggest thing, is to advocate as mayor to these developers. And the at the end of the day, I would assume I've worked with a lot of them with planning and zoning, and at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. But if we're trying to build a community and we're trying to build partnerships and working with folks, I think it's important that we can kind of have some of those programs that can help bring in the small businesses and bring in those different types of things. And others, it's just important that we do that. So that's an area that I definitely want to focus on and make sure that I'm advocating for small businesses with developers as they're coming in and trying to build whatever that they're building. Because we have to have a community, and we can't. It's important. It's important to me. It's important to our residents, and it's important to our small business.
Kevin, I know you can't watch the chat as you're talking here, but Jessica Rosa just entered a question. Hers says, one of the challenges I've heard is service members PCSing to Luke or moving to Arizona for work, but being unable to afford housing. How should the city be addressing this from a military or veteran support and economic development / business attraction standpoint?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I just make sure I understand. So when service members PCS, which is like a permanent change of station for those that aren't up to speed on the military terms, but so they're moving from one base to another. Like I went from Fort Hood, Texas to Fort Jackson, South Carolina. But I think for the city, it's just being welcoming. I think it's working with our realtors. I think we can develop a coalition with the realtor groups and say, hey, look, we got these military service members and their family coming in. Let's try to find them some affordable housing and try to find some areas, and we can't really predict or set aside or hold any housing. But I think if we develop those partnerships between Luke and we have somebody because when you move to a base, there's you in process, and we can definitely start as soon as they get here to say, hey, this is surprise, these are some preferred realtors, or these are some folks that have maybe committed to helping military families find those housing needs and the affordable housing. I know we get money for housing, but sometimes those rates don't necessarily match what the market is in the area, and sometimes it takes a little bit for the military to catch up on those rates. So you're coming out of pocket with housing costs. So again, I think it's just building that network between Luke, being a good neighbor with Luke and those service members, and then working with our anybody that realtors mostly, but in the area that can help with housing and helping them find affordable housing. And then as far as what was the other part of the question, Tina, was about addressing military veteran support and economic development. So I think from my time in the military, veterans are such a cool group. I mean, they raise their right hand to serve, but at the same time, they're so they have a lot of ingenuity and a lot of drive and a lot of passion. So a lot of them do have small businesses that they're trying to work through, and be service members, or their spouses are trying to work start a small business. And I think it goes back again to just developing those partnerships and working with having those experts available at the city for those folks to come in. So maybe that's another thing that we add to our welcome packet. If we could do a welcome packet from the city, a surprise to service members, and say, hey, this is, if you're trying to do business, if you're trying to buy a house, rent a house. I mean, even to some extent, I think if we can help a community, because a lot of times when you move from one base to another, your household goods don't meet you there at the same time. And so if we can even have, a community, group where we can, help them with some basic household goods, whether that's beds and couches or, a refrigerator, and we can just, have be that short-term gap for them. And that's really for me, having moved my family, it's a challenge. And I think if I would have had that, you know, moving from one base to another and just have the city like be like, hey, what do you need? How can we help you? Here are the people that can help you, whether that's housing, whether that's, any of it. I think that would go a long way to help that veteran community or and really the active duty service members. So that's really the perspective that I bring, for me as mayor. And that's, one of the reasons why, I wanted to run for mayor, just the different perspectives that I have. And it's important to have those perspectives to be able to see, things from different points of view. And so for me to be able to understand what it's like to be, a junior NCO or junior enlisted guy in the military moving with your family, it's, I know the challenges and I understand it because I lived it. My wife lived it and my family lived it. So I really want to do everything I can to help, help that community. And so that's for me, I think that's, how I would address the issue is just coordinating and just being open arms to Luke Air Force Base and just continuing to build that partnership.
Thanks, Kevin. Deborah Gentry submitted a question online, and hers is related to Luke as well. It says this: how much growth has Luke Air Force Base personnel and trainees grown in the last 5 years or 10 years? If the size of Luke employees and trainees has grown, is that amount enough to warrant much of the recent building of small or tiny houses in Surprise? So in summary, kind of asking about the growth over the last 5 or 10 years of the base and its personnel, and does that amount of growth warrant the recent building of small and tiny houses in the city?
Yeah, that's a great question, Deborah. I can't. I need to do research. I don't know the exact numbers or how many people, how many service members they have on base, but I feel like these small houses, these build to rent type houses, or it's when I was sitting on P&Z, it was a lot of from the developers like, hey, this is what the market dictates, and maybe to some extent I might agree with that. Not everybody wants to buy a house, but at the same time a lot of people do want to buy houses. So I think I wouldn't say that Surprise has more service members from Luke living in our city than any other city around Luke. So the need is there for housing, but I don't know if there's a correlation between the growth of Luke and those bungalow style homes. I think it's just the housing market is so bad, and we're trying to find every different way to help people. It's really about, and I don't want to get too much into housing, but it's really just a housing shortage of all different types. And I think so. You have a housing shortage issue, and you have the interest rate issue. And so people aren't moving between, from a starter home to a medium home, from medium to a bigger home, or back and forth. So I think that kind of dictates that. The housing inventory dictates that bungalow style home, but I don't know if there's a correlation between one or the other. I'd have to do some research to really dig into it. But I know for me, I moved to South Carolina in Fort Jackson, and I bought a house. I was only going to be there for a few years, but at the same time, I think home ownership is important, and so if we can help, and I'm sure a lot of the service members again are kind of entrepreneurs, and and a lot of them I've known over my career have bought houses in each place that they go, keep those houses, turn them into rentals. But I know for home ownership is a big thing for veterans and service members. So I definitely want to make sure that we're doing that. So didn't answer your question completely, Deborah. I apologize. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research, but I hope I kind of help a little bit understand at least my perspective of what's going on.
Thank you. And Deborah, who asked the question, I know isn't here on the call tonight, but Deborah, if you listen to this recording, Jessica, who's on the call, did share a link at azmag.gov that talks about targeted growth management. A targeted growth management plan. So if you're interested in reading that, look for azmag.gov/programs/economic-development/Luke-Air-Force-Base. I feel like a little automaton.
Yeah, too easy. But yeah, well, thanks for sharing that, Jessica. And Deborah, I appreciate your question. I'm gonna go read up on that too, Jessica. So thanks for sharing that. It's as mayor, I'm gonna be humble and say I'm not gonna have the answer to everything, but I'm gonna at least do some research and figure it out and work with whoever I can to do that.
Kevin.
All right.
We do have one remaining question that was submitted beforehand.
Okay.
It's more related to water, which I know we had initially planned on talking about tonight. We've kind of moved to a different day. So Kevin, would you like to take this water related question or save that
Sure.
for another day?
No, I mean, if somebody has a question and they're on, I'm more than happy to answer. We got a few more minutes.
Okay, perfect. This question is from Kathy Rose, and I don't see her in the list of participants, but her question is this. Our leaders always mention the 100-year plan that has to be submitted supporting the additional structures and people and the impact on our water. Have you ever checked a 100-year plan for veracity? And how do you see the growth of Surprise going? It feels out of control to me without any thought.
Yes. So great question. And so the 100-year assured water supplies is a certificate that a builder has to get in order to make sure that they have an assured water supply. So it's a 10-year projection of what it's going to be, and then they multiply that out for 100 years, and that's what they have to have. So it is a certified thing. But the growth and what's going on. I mean, right now the city uses about 9,300 acre feet of water per year, which is a good amount. And we have water from the Colorado River through the Central Arizona Project, and we have some affluent water that we can use in some different ways. And so when I was doing my fellowship, I was working with the water director, and right now we take some of the water that we use and pump it back into the aquifer. We clean it up, pump it back in, and so that's called banked water. And so we have a lot of that banked water, and right now we are banking more water than we use. But by 2035, that scale will tip, and based on population growth and based on how much we are using, we'll start using more than we are pumping into the ground. And so for me, it's we have that 100-year assured water supply, but I mean we by the time that we're fully built out, we'll have somewhere between 80,000 and 125,000 acre feet of water used each year. So if you can imagine that growth from 9,300 to potentially 100,000 acre feet of water, an acre feet is a acre, a square acre 1 foot deep, if you can imagine what an acre foot of water is. But and so we just need to be proactive with our water portfolio, making sure that we're continuing to invest in our water infrastructure and just making sure that we have a safe, reliable, redundant water system. And I know we work with our regional partners, and we're working on some of our our Colorado River water allocation and making sure that we continue to try to increase our allocation of that water to make sure that we're keeping pace with that growth. So we are growing a lot, and it's one of those things. I haven't met a lot of residents that are all about growth. I mean, I know some of the realtor folks that I've talked to are about growth, which is understandable, but for me, it's been about smart and responsible growth, and making sure that we are working with developers and really working with residents, because I know there's a lot of incompatibility issues when, especially being on P&Z, you'd see these developers come in and they have meetings, and you'd have before they have community meetings before they come to P&Z, and there'd be only a couple of folks in those meetings, and they wouldn't get a lot of feedback. So for me as mayor, it's really making sure that the developers are reaching out to the residents that are in the area, and any resident really in the city that can come in and talk about, hey, this is what the plan is. Let's make sure it fits with our general plan. Let's make sure it fits with the identity of our city. Let's make sure it fits with the identity of the particular neighborhood or whatever it's going to be. And so for me, that's part of the smart growth, responsible growth. And then as far as water and those types of things, making sure that we're not leapfrogging our developments. And so we're making sure that developments are contiguous. We're building one after the other, as opposed to building one and then a few miles away building another one, and we have to use city money to help fill that gap, which is really kind of hurting our budget. So but yeah, it was to go back to the question. It's making sure that we are investing in our water portfolio, making sure we're investing in the infrastructure, and just being on the forward edge of making sure we have enough water for the future.
Thank you, Kevin. And Kathy Rose, thank you for calling my attention. Now I see you there, and I'm so sorry I didn't see it before. But if you have any follow-up questions or comments for anything that Kevin was talking about, we would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. That's my favorite part about running for office, is talking to residents. I love the city before, but talking to folks, it's an incredible experience. And we have so many good people in the city. So Kathy, did you want to try to jump on?
didn't realize I could unmute myself.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Is there a way that I could actually see one of those 100-year plans? Is that like for public perusal?
Yeah, I don't see, I mean, for me, I think anything government is 100% visible. So yeah, I'd have to work with our water director and see if that's something that we can do. I mean, just so you can see what it looks like. But I'm sure there's a lot of, I mean, I've personally never seen one myself, but yeah, I can work towards that for sure.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah, Kathy, I'm also known around City Hall as Queen of the FOIAs. So you are welcome to find me on Facebook, whatever, Pigeon, Smoke Signal, and I can show you how to request public records too. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't think it's a, I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's an option, but I'm pretty sure that the city just kind of help out with that. I think if it's a resident that wants to know, I don't see an issue with, I don't think it's a secret.
Okay.
But yeah, I appreciate that, Rebecca, being able to.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I just know in my experience when I've asked those types of questions, usually they want me to like formalize it. So I'm happy
Yeah,
to walk
that's true.
anybody through that process.
That's
Thank
a good
you.
point.
One less thing
Yeah.
for you to worry about, Kevin.
That's a fair point. We got a lot going on right now, but still, want to help Kathy Rose answer, get her question answered. So did I answer your question, Kathy, as far as everything?
Responsible growth is what I'm really questioning. It doesn't feel like the growth that we've seen in the last few years has been what I would term responsible,
Right.
or responsive to residents. So I'd like to see that change.
Yes, and I agree. And I think for mayor, whoever's going to be mayor, it's going to be one of the biggest challenges is, that communication with residents and making sure that we're just open and clear with what's going to happen. So yeah, I appreciate that perspective. And I'm working towards it every day. Kathy, is it Kathy Rose or Kathy?
It's Kathy Rose.
Kathy Rose, sorry. Yep.
Yeah,
So
no problem. I
definitely
get
one of
called a
my,
lot of things, and I'll answer to most of them.
what's that?
I get called a lot of things, Kathy or Rose or Kathy Rose or Mary Rose or Julie Rose. I'll answer. It's
Love
not
it.
a problem.
Okay. Well, thanks for asking the question and being able to jump on and talk about it a little bit. So, all right. So we are getting kind of close to the end time, and I appreciate everybody's sticking through to the end. So if we can go ahead and I think I saw the election reminder slide, and so we have some pretty significant dates coming up. I don't know if that's the slide or not. Let's go to the next one. Yeah. So our campaign has grown and built an incredible amount of momentum. It really has. It's been just tremendous with everybody helping and but it's definitely grassroots. So, and there'll be a slide here that you can help, you can click on to do a QR code, and we can probably go to the next slide. It might be on there, but any help that you guys can provide with grassroots, whether that's, telling your neighbors, telling your friends, telling your family, helping, we're doing door knocking, we're doing phone calls, and we're doing fundraisers. So anything that you can do to help support, you can scan the support and donate. That'll take you to a page to help you kind of figure that out. And then to stay connected, you'll get on our email list, and anything that comes up, the campaign team will reach out to you and let you know what's going on with all these different events and stuff. So it's been incredible, but all the help that we can get, we're going to take, and we're going to continue to just keep pushing forward. It's been amazing. I love it. So let's go to the next slide, please. All right. So tomorrow is a big day. We have our mayor forum. So it's going to be doors open at 5 and the thing starts at 6, the forum. So if you go to Auto University, if you go to the Epic Networking Series Facebook page, they have the event on there. And then there's there's a little graphic or a little map of exactly where it's at on Ottawa, where to park, where to go. And so it can seat about 200 folks. And I know my wife and kids will be there. So maybe we're down to about 190. And my mom's going to be there too, which is exciting. She's just retired, moved out here from Florida. So she'll be there. So we're probably at 195. But either way, 200 seats. And I'd love to see everybody out there. I think the more support we can get and just really get residents engaged, and whether whichever way you're leaning for the election, I think just having that face to face and just having an opportunity to listen to, both the candidates, listen to our ideas, and really just make an informed decision. So I'm excited about it. I'm ready to go, and I'd love to see you out there. So you can scan that QR code for a little bit more info about it as well. It's gonna be a fun event.
Kevin, I'm going to interrupt here with a question real quick. I know that we had talked about that a few years ago when we were addressing the city council and trying to encourage them to side with the citizens about not approving some land. We all showed up in blue to show solidarity and unity. Did we ever settle on something so that we can show you just visually like, hey, we're here for you?
Yeah, so I ordered some stickers. So we have some stickers that we'll be passing out at the door. It's a little, I think it's 3x3 stickers that you can put on your shirt. I know Q is going to be wearing pink. I know I think it's his mom is a survivor of breast cancer, and I think is it Breast Cancer Awareness Month? I thought that was October. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. So he's gonna be wearing pink. I don't think we landed on any specific color, but we'll definitely have the stickers out there. So if Tina, if you want to call the color, we can call her right now.
Well, I say let's do it. Pinks and reds. Let's show up in an array of pink and red.
Okay. All right. I love it. Pinks and red. All right. All right. Let's go. I appreciate that, Tina. Let's go to the next slide. And the election dates. Okay. So the registration deadline is July 1st. If you haven't registered to vote, you need to do that. The mail-in ballots will go out on the 3rd. And then the election is July 30th. So it's coming up. I think we're at 50 days right now and counting. So it's going to come up quick. And so if you're not registered, and if you are registered as an independent, you'd have to request a specific ballot, whether that's a Democrat ballot, a Republican ballot, or a city-only ballot. And so you'd have to request through the county which one you want. And you could probably request it through the city clerk as well, or at least email her and she can help you find the right place to go to. All right. I think we're getting close to the end. All right, so this is the event wrap up. I appreciate everybody being here. I think there's one more slide. Is it probably a final Q&A? Well, I appreciate everybody being here. We're doing these events every Monday. We have 2 more scheduled, and we'll have the different topics about it. But I think instead of having this long Zoom call, we're trying to break it up into little bits. And so if you can invite your friends or whoever else to join on the next one, we're gonna do it next Monday, same time, 7 o'clock. But really, it's the city is at a crossroads, in my opinion, and it's what direction do we want to go? And I think we need the right leader at the right time. And I feel like I'm that right leader. We need somebody that has a fresh perspective, somebody that has a lot of experience, and really a lot of leadership experience. And that's really what's going to, I think, drive the city forward, working with all the different parties, all the different folks that help run the city, that help that develop in the city, the residents. So for me, it's about using that leadership, using that experience to making sure that our city is headed in the right direction. So I would appreciate everybody's vote. Appreciate your consideration and just being on here. It shows me that you're an engaged resident, and it means the world to me that you are willing to listen and take time out of your busy day. So I appreciate each and every one of you for doing it. I appreciate you spending time sharing ideas, because that's what democracy is, and that's how we're going to get things accomplished. So thank you so much. I think that's the last slide. So everybody have a good night, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow at the forum. Take care.
Thank you. In pink and red, right?
Yes, ma'am. Red.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good night.
Kevin.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Bye.